Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. And today we'll see the Pokemon trading card game World Champion crowned. So before that happens, I think we should take a look back at everything that happened in Day 2 and what we learned. I did do a what we learned from Day 1. I will, of course, link it in the description. I'm going to try not to overlap too much with my Day 2 what we learned. So, what did we learn? And I think the first thing we learned is that Welder is busted. Welder is just over the top good. Welder is a supporter card that came out in Unbroken Bonds, which allows you to attach 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon and then draw 3 cards. And that really has been at the center of 3 of the 4 top decks in the World Championships this year. Really, 3 of the top 5 decks all revolved around Welder. We've obviously got Reshiram and Charizard, which had a very good showing this weekend, far better than I expected, which uses, and this might shock you, Reshiram and Charizard to do giant attacks, 4 energy, 230 damage, 3 energy, 200, or 6 energy, 300, goes through any effects on the defending Pokemon. And you use Welder to make sure you can get the energy on there fast enough. We expected that. And we've also seen it for Blacephalon. Now, to be fair, Blacephalon doesn't just use Welder. It also uses Naganadel to take energy out of the discard pile and attach it to itself. And it also uses B-String, whereby if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, you can search your deck for 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your Ultra Beasts. Cool. But that doesn't change the fact that Welder makes this deck significantly better. And it really does make it significantly better. Lot faster, and now of course you've got a draw engine paired with your energy acceleration, and that's what makes Welder so weirdly great, is that you're talking about energy acceleration and draw power in one. But we've also seen it with these Mewtwo and Mew decks. I did do a video about Mewtwo and Mew. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. Mewtwo and Mew all of a sudden has come around and it uses Welder. And the whole point of Mewtwo and Mew is that it can copy attacks of any GX Pokemon in the discard pile or on your bench. So what you do is you choose a whole bunch of Pokemon that basically just use fire or colorless energy and you're off. And there are many of them. There is Reshiram and Charizard. You've got things like Macago, things like the new Dragonite, for instance. And then players tended to play, 1 or 2 Psychic Energy or maybe a couple of Rainbow Energy. And then all of a sudden that opened up stuff like Naganadel and Espeon and Deoxys. Because bearing in mind, they only use 1 Psychic Energy per attack. So it doesn't matter. You just grab your 1 Rainbow or 1 Psychic and you're off. And that's what Welder has done. Welder has really been the difference in Reshiram and Charizard decks and Blacephalon decks and Mewtwo and Mew. Mewtwo and Mew only allows you to copy all these different Pokemon because you can basically pile energy on and then choose which one you want to use. Welder piles the energy on. Welder, for me, is the big story of this World Championships. It has really been at the center of the format. Now, Pikachu and Zekrom has been doing quite well without it, and there has been that control deck using Oranguru and Pidgeotto, which has survived just fine without it. But they really are the top 5 decks this weekend, and 3 of them have been revolving around Welder. If we look at the top 8, which we're going to do in a minute, 6 of the top 8 decks at the World Championships, and all of the top 4 are decks that revolve around Welder. That seems pretty clear to me. Now, the other trend we've really seen this weekend is that stadiums are back in a big way. And I think it's largely because Field Blower's gone away. Field Blower, when you play it, you can discard 2 in any combination of tools and stadiums. But Field Blower is rotated right before this World Championships. Now, to be fair, it also means tools are much more difficult to get rid of. But the number 1 tool by a mile was Choice Band. And that's also rotated. Now we're still seeing people with a skateboard. And we're still seeing people play around with spell tag, but tools have not been like they used to be. Of course, one of the reasons for that is one of the stadiums that has seen so much play this weekend, Lysander Labs. It is a stadium that reads Pokemon tool cards in play, yours and your opponent's, have no effect. So, Field Blower gets rid of stadiums, that makes stadiums better. It also gets rid of tools, but you don't need to play it because you've got Lysander Labs. Now, to be fair, some people have pointed out in response to my previous videos, yes, we still do have Faber, which not only will get rid of a stadium, but will also put it into the lost zone, but no one's playing Faber. Like, I've been glued to the stream all weekend. I've been glued to watching the World Championships on Twitter, on Facebook, all the news, all of the streams, everything. I've been devouring as much information about it as I can, and I've not seen anyone playing Faber. Now, to be fair, there is one good answer that we have seen to these stadiums, and that is the new Marshadow. The new Marshadow, which came around in Unbroken Bonds, and saw almost no play until this weekend because we had Field Blower, has a really good ability whereby if it's on the bench, you may discard it and all cards attached to it, and discard a stadium card in play. And what this has really done so beautifully is you can leave it on the bench, wait for your opponent to play a stadium, and then get rid of it. I mentioned in the previous video how gusting has really come down to just Custom Catcher and Ninetales, and that's about it. Gusting is way more difficult than it used to be, which means that Marshadow is probably going to stay on the bench because your opponent is unlikely to waste their gusting options on it. So that means that you can just leave it there, and whenever your opponent plays a stadium, off you go. As for the stadiums that have seen play, Fire decks have been all over Giant Half. It's just great for grabbing all of your energy. Shrine of Punishment has seen play. It has actually been teched into, weirdly, some Reshiram and Charizard decks, so that they can then hit 240 on a Pikachu and Zekrom, while also boosting up their Outrage attack, whose damage depends on how much damage is on Reshiram and Charizard. We've seen quite a lot of Power Plant turning off abilities of EX and GX Pokemon. Well, just GXs at the World Championships, for fairly obvious reasons. All the EXs have rotated. And that's actually been a really good answer to Mewtwo and Mew, as well as Dedenne, which has been everywhere. Although this stadium has not seen quite as much play as I might expect. Lysander Labs has also seen a lot of play. We've seen Viridian Forest see play in non-fire decks as a way to get that energy out of the deck, discard a card from your hand, search for any basic energy. We've seen Ultra Space running around in Ultra Beast decks like Naganadel Blacephalon. It just lets you search for an Ultra Beast and put it into your hand. Especially with the new Naganadel GX, it's brilliant because you can search for an Ultra Beast and then discard it to draw free cards. And then, of course, you got the two really good Prism Star stadiums. Thunder Mountain Prism Star reduces the attack cost of lightning Pokemon by 1 lightning energy. Heat Factory Prism Star lets you discard a fire energy from your hand and draw free cards. No surprises that they see an awful lot of play. Stadium Wars are back and more relevant than they've been for a very long time. And partly it's because we've got lots of different stadiums we're seeing play with. It's not just Shrine of Punishment and Viridian Forest, which is what it seemed to have been for a while. But it's also because with no Field Blower, it's so much harder to get rid of stadiums. And yes, some people are popping a space in their deck and on their bench for Marshadow, but not everybody is. Now, before we finish taking a look at this, we do need to have a little bit of a gander at the top 8 bracket. Now, this was shown on the stream, and I have screenshot it directly from the stream. And we can see here that we had quite a good mixture of countries. There was some representation for most people here. Now, Europe had 2. That was Pachosaurus and Tordreklev from Spain and Norway. The USA was represented by 2 players, Isaiah Williams and Blaine Hill. Japan was represented by 2 players, Shintaro Ito and Ryota Ishiyama. And Australia was represented by 2 players, Kywin Kababe and Henry Brand. Sorry for any mispronunciations. So the 2 Europeans had to play each other, the 2 Australians had to play each other, a little bit sad. In the Japan versus America battles, Japan 1-1, America 1-1. But then it all came down. The final play today will be between Shintaro Ito and Henry Brand. So if we have a look at the decks that we saw represented here, then Shintaro Ito is playing that Blacephalon deck, and he defeated Isaiah Williams, who was playing that Oranguru control deck. Elsewhere on the left-hand side of the bracket, we saw that Pakasaurus was playing Reshizard, and he was taken down by Tord Reklev, also playing Reshizard, though they were slightly different builds. Paco's deck really revolved around Green's Exploration, so not playing any abilities, whereas Tord really did play with abilities with Ninetales and lots of Dedenne, and 18 energy. Over in the Australian game, we saw Kaiwen and his Pikachu and Zekrom deck, the lone Pikachu and Zekrom in top 8, being taken down by Henry Brand's Mewtwo deck. He obviously took that all the way to the finals, Mewtwo and Mew. And then in the last of the top 8 games, we saw Ryota's Mewtwo and Mew deck defeated by Blaine's Reshiram and Charizard. In top 4, we saw Shintaro Ito and his Blacephalon Naganadel deck taking down Tord Reklev's Reshiram Charizard deck. That was the one that we saw on stream, and it didn't get any better in top 4 for Reshiram and Charizard, because Blaine Hill's Reshiram and Charizard was taken down by Henry Brand's Mewtwo and Mew. So in top 8 then, we saw 3 Reshiram and Charizard decks, 2 Mewtwo and Mew decks, and then we saw 1 Oranguru Control, 1 Pikachu and Zekrom, and 1 Naganadel Blacephalon. Interesting enough that even though Reshiram and Charizard was the most represented deck in top 8, there were 3 of them, none of them actually made it into the final. And we've ended up with Shintaro Ito's Blacephalon Naganadel against Henry Brand's Mewtwo and Mew. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That was day 2. That's what we saw. That's what you missed. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this. And I want you to give me a prediction for who's going to win the final. Chuck it down in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.